No,
I was like, if
I
that's your
didn't text him PM. I said 9:30.
I was ready to go.
Oh no, I
night.
can't do morning. I
Can't
mean,
do
I can't
PM.
do night.
Night.
You can't do nights? Oh, see, I love nights.
Oh, we're on. Okay.
Oh,
We're on?
ABR.
Here we are.
Always be
All
You
right,
recording.
guys
I'm
look
just gonna
so
clap.
hot. I can't
What
get
are you
over that,
talking
man.
about?
There's the clap so that we can be online.
I like it. I love your hat, your shirt.
Everyone feel
shoes.
good? You comfy?
happy.
Yeah, super
Comfy?
Here.
Oh, real
Comfy?
comfy.
Clean heart.
All right, I'm going to count us in.
Pure heart, clean
You're
hands.
hot.
Here we go. Ready? Count us
always
in.
makes me
3,
nervous.
2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the No Roof Podcast. This is episode, what are we on, Choo?
We on 7.
We're
it's
on
a big
7.
deal.
So this is a big deal for us because when we did our research, started a podcast, everyone said 7th was like the hardest one to get to. And then
Yeah.
that's when people started like, okay, we're done making these. And so thank you, viewers. Thank you,
did it.
guests, for coming.
Yes.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Jackie. I celebrate you. Jackie,
Love
what's
you.
the song I do? Jackie Jack. We love
We
Jack.
love Jack.
Jack.
Oh, look,
We
we're
love
wearing Jack shirts.
So
Jack,
and we're wearing
sponsored
Jack.
by
Look at that.
Jack.
They're wearing shirts for you, Jack. So this is episode 7. I am your general. I am your George Washington.
Yep.
Yeah, you
I
are.
am the captain.
Yep.
And I have my ride or die over there, Choo Choo. And together we are Chaba Choo Choo. Today with us we have the Rooster.
Superman.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
We have Rooster King Nate. Now before we introduce our mystery guest, let's go into that intro.
Deep voice.
I love it.
You just don't
All
know
right,
it.
welcome back. All right, episode 7. So we have an amazing guest today, someone very close to all of our hearts.
Absolutely.
Let's just say her name. Celeste Nalepa is in the
Celeste.
house. Clap for yourself. Come on,
Hey,
clap. Come on.
Woo! So
Happy to
happy
be
you're
here.
here. We love
Thank you so much for coming. So we know Celeste through your amazing husband.
My
and
therapist.
then we realized how amazing you were, and even more amazing. I said that if he's
Yeah,
watching.
she is
No.
incredible.
We blur that out, Jack. But Taylor has been, I mean, a big voice in all of our
Absolutely.
lives.
Yeah.
I mean, he was at all our weddings.
Yes.
We give inappropriate hugs because we love each other.
Yes.
And
Inappropriate?
He's my
inappropriate
therapist.
hugs.
We go
Yes.
for coffee, and
Honestly,
he
He
heals
has
me.
nice
on him all
calves.
the
Your
time.
husband has nice
He has
calves.
amazing
The
calves.
sexiest.
He is
They're
the best.
beautiful calves. I
Love
love
it.
his calves. So today we have a word we're going to tear the roof off, and I'm very excited about this word. It might get a little deep, and I think it should. A little.
Yeah.
What's that word that we don't like? Vulnerable.
At this
Vulnerable. Even that word just goes. Makes you go, we're getting vulnerable. So Choo Choo, what are we taking the roof off today?
Today we're taking the roof off. Purity.
Purity. Everyone say it.
Yeah.
Purity.
Don't leave. Don't leave. You stay on. You
Purity.
keep watching. Don't leave.
Yeah. Don't leave. Don't leave. And I love that we're doing this because
Why would we avoid purity though? Why is that a weird one?
I don't know. I think there's certain words that like
It's
you
got
know.
stigma.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
E-
Stigma.
Well, let's talk
even
about
like the first episode we did with you, like certain words like holy.
Oh, I
It's
see
like
what
you know what I
you're
mean. We have
saying,
these words that we
Yeah.
think like, okay, fun's over.
Yeah. Fun
Like when you hear
Okay.
purity, I don't hear, oh, happy birthday to us. You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you know, I
that's
think
good,
there's
yeah.
like you said, we have these things. So this is why we need to take the roof off it.
That's what we got.
So
to
I
do.
want to say this though, because I think it's perfect timing. So last podcast we had Jordan on, and we talked about healing.
Yeah.
And we really talked about the power of God. And so it's amazing how this one kind of came up in our spirit talking to Rafa. And my favorite evangelists and preachers, the two words that always go together, Smith Wigglesworth, David Hogan, Catherine Coleman, Bill Johnson, the two words that go together are power and purity,
Purity. Wow.
right? I was thinking about that driving in today. I was like, wow, we're doing purity. And then that really came up in my heart of like, they always go hand in hand. The people I know that like are moving, they have both those things,
So good.
power and purity. So my question, let's start us off doing a round table.
Let's do it.
Who wants to start? Let's define this word,
I like it.
purity. Anyone
Yeah.
want to jump in?
Can I ask? 'Cause
Please
I was-
ask.
when I heard purity, I was excited. So we're kind of like, well, let's avoid it. But like, I like
for it.
purity.
Let's dive
Why?
in.
Why do you
Tell
like
us
it?
why.
No,
Tell us
no, no,
why.
I
You're
wanna
going
know why you
first.
like it.
You're
I
going
want to
first.
ask the question.
Break it in.
I wanna
No,
ask
no,
the
no,
question.
no.
Can we ask our special guest? Did we unblur her face yet?
Open heart. Yeah.
Okay,
yes,
good.
I think we did.
No, I want to ask. What you said? There's a stigma. What is the stigma behind purity?
In the church or in the world, I guess. In the
Ooh,
church,
let's
I
do
guess.
both.
Break it down.
Let's do this.
I mean, the stigma for, in my experience, is we have this thing that says purity is the standard. And then when we fall from purity in our concept of what purity is, then shame comes in and it's
Yeah,
big, hidden. It's hidden things. It's stigma, like pure. I don't know.
That's really good.
That's
So
just
it's
kind
something
of
we put on, I think, on a pedestal.
On a pedestal,
And
yeah.
I'll admit this. I think none of us are perfect. That's why I think this is a great.
We're not.
We're not perfect, right?
Oh.
It's a lesson.
So I
for-
think
Oh,
when we put that on a pedestal, like you said, when we miss the mark, that's when the shame really comes in.
That's it.
So let's define purity. Like when I hear purity, like what's the first thing you guys think of?
Wholeness.
Wholeness.
Wholeness. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, take the roof off wholeness. What does it mean to be whole?
Nothing hidden and nothing hindering you in your relationship with God and your relationship with other people.
Wow.
Good.
So if I have things that are hidden, they're also hindering me. Like I can't be vulnerable with others. You guys were talking about the word vulnerability.
Yeah.
You can't actually be vulnerable and stay hidden.
That's good.
And purity is walking in that like integrity of self. It's you are who you say you are, and there's nothing hidden. There's nothing hindering
Beautiful.
you. You're
That's
not
good.
trudging
good.
through the mud.
That's so good, Celeste. Thank you for
I
that.
was even thinking the same thing of driving in, thinking about the word purity and kind of what you said, the wholeness. I kept thinking about like, you know, when you go grocery shopping or even like gold, you know, like when it's pure gold, like there's no, you know,
Yeah, it's whole.
Contamination.
no
or anything.
contamination.
That's it.
That and like, you know, like when you go shopping, you want it to say pure orange juice. You know, it's like
Yeah.
what else?
Yeah.
What,
I
you
need
know,
the
what kind
pure
of crap are they
thing. I
putting
need
in
the
this?
chicken
I
that ain't
hope
the
it's
pure
orange
wheat.
juice.
Yeah.
I mean, the pure corn.
You know what I mean? Because I think even today, like now when you go shopping, I think there's a mix of certain things. So you almost
That's
have
right.
to look for the pure.
That's
Right.
it.
You know, so that was the word that got to me, like pure gold. I think of like 24 karat solid, no,
That's it.
you know, what's that word for fake gold? There's
Fool's
like
gold?
Fool's
Imitation?
gold.
what is it?
Fool's gold.
Imitation?
Imitation, or
Imitation.
I heard there's like a
Oh,
name,
I like
but
that. It's funny because I looked up the word purity.
Oh,
You
break it
know, I
down.
was like, what does it actually
Mr.
mean?
Dictionary.
And it means like to not have any contamination, to have without contamination. And it was funny because like the reason that purity made me uncomfortable was because the way that I used to hear it was like I did something wrong to contaminate somebody else. Is the way that I did it.
Ooh,
Or like or I missed the goal, so now I'm contaminated and there's something wrong with me. And now I have to get clean. And now the blood of Jesus isn't enough because I'm such a sinner and I'm contaminated. And because I'm contaminated, the next person I talk to is contaminated, or the next person that I love is contaminated. Now my wife is contaminated. And the first time I actually heard about purity was from the school you went to in Bethel. And Chris Vallotton, he talked about the power of purity actually means your value. And it was the first time I even heard anybody say, like, it's not about how many times you say no, it's how many times you say yes. So if your yes is big, then there's no need to say no because your value is so big. And just to be real from the beginning, my wife and I struggled with purity before we were married, right? It was like, hey, soul ties are bad. Taking the roof off soul tie is
Yeah.
when you have sex with somebody and there's this spiritual connection between the two. And
Right.
it's not good because if that's not your wife, then you have these emotional attached to them forever. And those are things that you and Jesus need to break, right? So we had a problem when it came to purity. And then I listened to this. She had listened to the teaching first. She had read, I think, Redeeming Love first. And she was like, I'm pure. She's like, I don't want to do these things. You want to talk about being mad? Like, I was mad. I was like, what do you mean
Oh,
we're not going to do
man.
these things? You're gonna cut me off?
Yeah.
And then I read it, and I was like, no, you don't touch me. I'm pure. I have value, you know? And so,
Wow.
like, I love the aspect of purity shows the real gold inside of you, you know, your actual
That's
worth.
good, Choo Choo.
So anyways, that's just
That's
me throwing it
great.
out there.
Good. Thank you for sharing that.
I love you guys.
Yeah, I think even when I hear that word purity, I right away think of like more like on the sexual side.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think of like because I maybe because the denomination I grew up in, I think of purity and like the holiness thing. Like
Yeah.
like if it feels good, stop. Like be
Mhm.
pure. Like
Yeah.
it was like you said something that you didn't do. So I'll spill my beans. Is that what you say? Spill the
Spill your
beans, spill the
beans.
free holies.
Spill the Frito-Lays.
So I was a virgin till I was 29, and it was for me. I really wanted to wait, you know, to be married to you know, have sex, and I wanted to save myself for my wife. And you guys know my wife, Kristen, and I was excited. I really wanted her to be my first, and I had this, you know, standard. And I kind of want to even talking about the whole purity thing is like. It's what I learned through this process is when I was 29, I lost it. I got into a relationship that it felt good for me, but I knew God would say no. Didn't guard my heart. At the time, like wasn't around people, and you know man, when I lost it, it was I fell, and like you said, what you just went through, I felt that too. I felt like it was almost like, is this redeemable?
Yeah.
Like it
Ooh.
felt like talk about the shame and the guilt. It was so heavy, even to the point where it was like even today, it's a miracle. Talk about God redeeming, like the fact that I married Kristen and how she had to forgive me in this process. But the biggest one for me was like forgiving myself. That was so hard. I waited 29 years to wait that long and then blow it. Like that was like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was a little,
Yeah.
but I think for me, what I realized was this: my purity. I realized through my falling was it was on me.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It was almost like a pride thing. Like,
A good
look, I'm pure.
distinction.
Look. I'm not messing around like
Mm.
you guys. Like you
Mm.
guys are all sleeping out. I'm being. Look at me. You
Mm.
know, I'm
Mm.
I'm virgin. Da 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 da. Da. You guys are out. Da da da. And I realized once I fell, it like he wasn't my purity.
Mm.
I was my own purity.
Wow.
And I think that really uncovered something where, I think as believers, we're realizing, he is our righteousness. He's our sanctification. He is our, like I said, he's the reason we are pure. And it wasn't until I fell that I realized, oh, my purity has been all about, my
Yeah.
muscle.
Wow.
And that was really hard.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
you kept saying redeem. Can you take the roof off redeem?
Yeah, I think to me, redeemed is, it's fully forgiven. It's as if it truly never happened, restored back to, brand new. And, I think even like when we interviewed Patrick, the whole keeping no record of wrongs,
Wow.
the fact that God saw me after, we had a huge encounter and a process and sozos up the wazoo. The fact that he sees me as if I've never done it.
It's beautiful.
And like, it's too good to be true,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
that the process of that is too good to be true. But yeah, I just wanted to spill the beans. So if you're watching, man, I just encourage you. And I'll say this other thing about purity. I mean, once I did it, it kind of opened the door to other things too. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like when you don't have that value, it opens the door to other things. Like people say, like marijuana is like the gateway drug to all these things. Once I had sex, man, it was like, oh man, like that wasn't it. Like it opened the door to so many other things, and
Right.
like it made me realize like I didn't have that value.
Yeah.
Well,
You
it
know.
opened the door to shame, which identifies yourself
Oh.
with your action.
Yeah.
I am bad, therefore I'm going to look for things to confirm that.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna welcome in pornography. I'm gonna welcome in
And
Come on.
that got
self-hatred.
that grew,
Yeah.
my pornography grew, and that,
Mhm.
even you saying that, like that grew, it just became like well, I'm already fallen, so this
Yeah.
is my new state of
I'm already
nature now.
dirty. Might as well get
Yeah.
real
You might as
dirty,
well
you know? Yeah.
be a good dirty boy. You know what I mean?
Good
Wow.
dirty boy.
And like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
that was tough, and to really, what helped me was you guys getting around
Mm.
people to tell me who I really am. In fact, this is where I have to shout out to my wife, because she found out. I was in California at the time she was here, and she found out and sent me an email, and she said, Abel, people are telling you who you're not. They're telling you not who you really are.
Mm.
She said, this is who you really are, and she always lifted me up, and like.
That's beautiful.
Like
And she was
that
just your
was-
girlfriend at the time, right?
Well, we separated at that time, but
Wow.
even at that time, I still knew it was her, and yeah, but she still. This is where I'm telling you, like, you are who you hang out with.
Mm.
Like,
That's
where's
true.
the camera? You are who you hang out
That's
with.
right. That's a big
And
one.
so, like, even for her to say that, and she was so heartbroken, even thinking about the purity and talking about sin, like, I realized in that process, I get why God hates sin, because it hurts people. You know what I mean? I hurt that girl. I hurt myself.
Yeah.
I hurt Kristen. I hurt so many people because of that. And it was just like, I don't want to like plow on that shame thing, but like let's
Yeah.
be honest. Like decisions have
I
consequences.
was gonna say that.
for
Yeah.
sure.
You know.
The aftermath behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love what Celeste said about shame and self-hatred.
Mm.
Can you take the roof off shame and self-hatred? Because
Yeah, it's good.
Oh yeah, I'm an expert in this area of
love Brene Brown.
self-criticism. Yeah, I think with the whole purity and shame aspect, I recently was reading Brene Brown, and she talked about perfectionism, and I was identifying so much with what she was talking about, and she said perfectionism is a function of shame
Wow.
because you're using perfectionism, which I equate to like the purity thing. And like when we hear purity, we think standard,
Yeah.
walk the line, don't mess up. Perfectionism, we think performing and getting our identity from what we are and are not doing. Well, I'm not doing that, so I'm pure. Or I am doing this, so I'm pure. You're still identifying yourself with your actions rather than your value, like you said. Like purity is acknowledging your inherent value
Yeah.
rather than identifying yourself with what you do.
that's so
Can you
good.
say that one more time? Because
Purity is what?
you're talking about your actions versus your value. Because
Yeah.
I don't think anyone talks about that when it comes to purity. They think I have actions that are
Yeah.
great, so I'm
Right.
pure. Like I'm
Mm,
great. So
mm.
I think they're.
Yeah.
I would love to talk about it. Can you just
Yeah.
say that one more time?
That's so good.
Yeah, I guess so. Perfectionism being the function of shame, it's still I am what I do.
Yeah,
It's
gotcha.
still, I did something bad, I am bad.
Gotcha.
And then I'm going to look for everything to confirm that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Versus what's the flip side?
Versus I'm good because I did good and I'm good because I didn't do bad. Your worth is still tied up in your actions,
And not
and it's
him.
not
So that's
in
what you were saying
being
you
a
were
child
at
of
with
God.
your.
Oh
okay,
yeah,
gotcha,
she nailed it.
Dang, dude.
Yeah. Once
so
I
good.
discovered it, I was like, well, I might as well commit
Yeah.
to everything else, and it
Yeah,
opened
confirmation
the door.
bias, you know.
Man, hearing you say that, we talk about like sin, and like, are you a sinner or are you a saint?
Hmm.
Like,
You
can you
can't
be
be
both?
both.
You can't be both. And Pastor Barry used to always say this, even talking about actions. He would always say, just because you sleep in the garage doesn't make you a car. Do you remember that?
I love
Yeah,
that.
that's so
And I
funny.
think
Make
for
horse
me, it was
yeah.
like, some people are like, well, I sinned, so I'm a sinner.
Yeah.
No, and I think
That's right.
we tend to own, man, I'll say this, and I think a lot of people struggle with this. We own our mistake more than who he is. We'll
Ooh.
own, I owned
Wait,
my
who's he?
God, I'm sorry. So, for example, I messed up. I looked at this bad thing. I slept with this person. I own that more than how much he wants to actually forgive me.
Mm.
It was like, no, I know it's bigger, but I don't want it. I'm gonna own this more instead of owning what he wants to give. I mean, we all know Romans 5. Like, where sin abounds,
Grace.
grace abounds much more, and like that's where it has to hit. It hits when you miss it. When you fall, when you whatever it is you didn't you did wrong. It's like, can you receive that grace?
Right.
And for me, I owned my action
Yeah.
more than I owned really his actions, what he wants to do for me.
That's
And
so
like
good.
I had to rediscover that all over again. But yeah,
Wow. But I think shame and self-hatred stops you from stepping into grace.
yes.
But you said grace, so take the roof off grace. Like, what does that mean?
Grace is, man. I mean, we all know that
Or even can you take the roof of what is Grace's role in purity?
There you
in
go. Good job.
purity, everything.
It's
I think
empowerment.
I think it's
Empowerment?
everything.
Yeah.
I think grace is, it's getting what you don't deserve, but it's really the fullness of who he is for us, which is I rested in me being pure because of my actions, where I learned to rest in the only way I'm pure is because of what he did for me. The only reason I'm pure is because the blood.
So
And
good.
if any of it's not in the blood, then it's still on me, and I'm going to carry it, which means my actions are going to be all about what I'm going to have to lift this thing up and hold my purity myself,
Yeah.
instead of resting in what he did for me
So
and
good.
accepting that
It's beautiful.
I can't conquer this anymore. So I'm going to surrender that you conquered it for me. Now help me.
Yeah.
Like,
good.
and that was hard. I think anyone that deals with pornography or lust, that's a big one for guys.
Yeah.
Is owning that, because we a lot of us we try to flex this purity, this
Yeah.
holiness. We're going to be holy,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
But yeah,
Willpower.
As
I don't,
Nate says,
that
clenching your
helps
butt
you too.
cheeks.
I don't know if
Yeah,
that
squeeze
answers it.
no, that's good.
Brewster, what are you
Golly.
thinking? What were you gonna say?
I'm thinking so much. I'm just so giddy. Like I love
It's all the coffee.
I love everything you guys are bringing to the table, because I just feel like this is stuff that I wish I had when I was 14, 15.
Ooh.
I mean,
Yeah.
even like, 5 years ago or something. It's just nobody talks. People talk about the fruit more than the root when it comes to purity.
Yeah.
They'll talk about, did you or did you not have sex?
That's right.
Yeah.
Did you or did you not look
Yeah,
at this?
bad.
Exactly. And even if you don't, then it's like good. It's like they'll ask the question of, I mean,
Yeah, you're onto something. Say it, Nate. Come
I
on.
no,
I'm with you.
I
I'm
want to
with
say this
you.
with honor in my heart, because, like,
Yeah.
because I've come to different. I've been in different ministries across the world, across the country, and so I love what the church is doing in the earth. That's what I'm saying.
Good
This
job.
is honor in
Good
my
job.
heart. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
But I've been asked questions about, the fruit, and like, if you're not doing it, then you're good. But does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
have you looked at porn recently? And that's the end of the conversation.
Right.
No, then that's
Wow.
the end of the conversation. But watch this. If you're scrolling on Instagram, sorry, watch this. I'm like,
Come
I'm not
on,
trying to
go
say-
there.
But this is my heart before
Yeah.
God. Is when Jesus came on the scene, he said, "You thought this was adultery? No. If you
Yeah.
even do it in your
Thank
heart,
you.
and it wasn't to make the rules harder. He was addressing where is the root of sin.
Yeah.
It has nothing. Sorry. If you're acting out in adultery, it's because it started in your heart.
Yeah.
And so when Jesus came on the scene, he wasn't making the rules harder. He was exposing where the source of the thing
Beautiful.
is. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he was saying, like, you think this is hate. You think this, it's actually murder if it happens in your heart. And it was like, I read that, and I was actually taught from the place of, don't even have a bad thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
If you do it, pluck your eye out real
if you
quick.
take it like that, then it actually makes it impossible. It was already
Yeah.
hard. It makes it impossible.
Yep.
Whereas what Jesus was actually trying to do is give you the grace to walk it out. Was if you invite me into the place of that. Anyways,
That's good.
Beautiful.
let me go back to the conversation I was having. That was I've been asked the question, have you looked at porn? And I say no. And then it's like, oh, then you're good. You're
Badge
good. You can come serve here,
Badge
whatever.
of honor, yeah.
Sorry, I just
That's
coughed
good.
on you.
I
I was like,
I
thank
received
Oh,
you.
remember this?
Abide
I'm
on
gonna
me.
abide in
over
it.
here.
Abide your cough on
I'm
me.
so sorry, dude. If you keep inviting me, I keep coughing on people. I'm gonna get kicked off. But I'm pure.
You're the
No, I'm
sound
just
guy.
kidding. No, so
So they were like, okay, you didn't watch
yes,
porn, you
okay,
can
cool, yeah.
serve.
So that was
Yeah,
into the
and that's
conversation.
the
But
end, yeah.
I'll be at my home, and I'll think about things with God of like, you know, you can be scrolling on Twitter, on Instagram, and you see a picture that stirs up something in you, and it's an invitation to let it linger in your heart. You
Yeah.
don't physically act on it. You don't even, but in your heart, you can go to a place of even lusting after, and it may not even be sexual. Sometimes we make
Yeah.
purity a sexual thing.
Cars,
Yeah.
money,
Sometimes I can
anything.
put a person in an inappropriate place in my heart where they're actually
Ooh,
stroking this thing that
ooh,
makes me feel better that only meant to be for my wife. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I only have one of these. My wife only has one of these. I'm not out here giving this to other people, you know. So for me to put on someone else's hand it's not like we just die, but it's definitely inappropriate. You see what I'm saying? And I think there's places in my heart where no one's asking questions about. It's like, how are you entertaining this person in your heart? When you get excited, when they text you, and it's like, there's a thing that like before God, God's like, and it's not this thing of like you're doing something wrong, but it's a thing of I made this place just for me. And when I think of purity, it has to do with that singularity.
Yeah.
It's there's nothing else there. It's not a matter of like cleanliness. It's a matter of there's nothing else there. It's
That's
singular. If
beautiful.
your
Pure.
eye is your eye is
Yeah,
single,
the
if your
pure.
eye is pure, then your whole body will be good. And it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of we have a jealous God
Yeah.
that is. I mean, I get it. I couldn't imagine if Megan came home and was like, "I love you, but I also really have love, intimate, romantic love for somebody else." I'd be like, "Ow,
Yeah.
Yeah.
ow! I'm still married to you. I'm still committed to you. It doesn't change how I feel about you, but that hurts." And I
Dang.
believe like God's mercy is so magnificent. It's new every morning, but we cannot ignore the fact that His heart breaks.
Yeah.
And like that's I think the biggest turn in my heart with purity had nothing to do with someone saying smack on the wrist or
Yeah.
this, but it was when I would get intimate with God, the closer I got to him, the more I fell in love with him. It was like, oh, this breaks your heart. I remember just weeping, man. And like, I couldn't eat because I started to realize like this hurts his heart. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine if Megan or anyone like she's not unfaithful, but if she was, and I was like, this would hurt. I would still be married to you. I would still commit to you, but it would just break my heart that I would give you all this love and you still want something else. Like I remember, if this is okay talking about. I remember reading the story of David, and it was like, Samuel the prophet.
Yeah.
Came to him and told him his story about these sheep. And he was like, what would you say about a man who had everything he wanted, but then went and sacrificed someone else's sheep instead? And he was like, oh, how dare he?
Yeah.
And he was like, kill him, beat him, do stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's you. This is you. And I remember it's funny now, but I remember just weeping. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't, like, I was shaking, I was trembling because I was like, I've been there where David was. I had everything that I could ever ask for, but still wanted to go to pornography. I had the comforter himself. I had peace. I had everything I was looking for. I had intimacy that could go beyond a person or even my imagination. I'm literally thinking what pornography is. You're sitting there and you're like using your imagination to get
Yeah.
intimate with something.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you think I'm doing with God? Sorry,
That
that's
is
all
so
it
good. Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm sitting here thinking like I had everything, but still I went and got something I wanted more. Like, and I could see God's heart in that passage where he's like, even if you would have asked for more, I would have given it to you. I've given you everything. If you asked for more, I would have given it to you. But you still, you weren't satisfied. And
Yeah.
I felt his heart break there. And like, that's when things started to shift for me for purity. It was like, I just want this place that is my heart where we meet. I want it to be just for you. And not a performance, not my actions, but the root of where it comes from. I want it to be all for you. And I haven't been perfect at it, but like that's the biggest game changer I've seen. So I'm really thankful for what you're sharing.
That's
Because
beautiful.
that's like right in my alley of like how to stay really pure.
Well, when
It's beautiful.
you were saying like you have everything and yet I still
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
What we do when we are not aware of the needs we have is we go to the counterfeit.
Come on
Yeah.
now.
Whether
Ooh.
it's whiskey, whether it's
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for
pornography,
sure.
whether it's talking with this girl that's,
Yeah.
or this guy, sorry.
The
Scrolling.
wholeness. The
Yeah,
Yeah,
wholeness.
scrolling,
Whatever, yeah.
scrolling, reading books.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be anything when you're not.
Aware. What'd you
Jason
say?
Valentin
Yeah.
said, he gave this story and it so clicked for me. He said, I went to Trader Joe's one day and I saw this woman and like my heart like leapt and I was like, whoa, 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 I'm happily married. What's going on? And he went through a checklist like,
Yeah.
and he's like, I've been at the church 7 days a week this week. I haven't done anything
Wow.
for I want adventure.
Yeah.
And he called his wife, he goes, I need to go fishing. Like, because he realized
Yes, come on.
this excitement from seeing this woman was not about the woman. It was about, I'm missing something key
Wow,
That's
to
right.
my
good,
health,
Celeste.
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is adventure, but I'm grabbing this counterfeit. And if people are not self-aware, they're going to go, oh, I just need porn
Yeah, for
because
sure.
it fills something in
That's
me.
good,
Yeah.
But
Celeste.
really it's, you need to go fishing.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But you don't always, like, I love the Bible. I love the Bible. I love Jesus. But it's not always, I need more time in the secret place. Sometimes it's, I need to go out with Kristen. I need to
Yeah.
go.
Lift some
Go for a
weights, throw
walk.
some stuff
I
around.
need to lift
dude.
some
Go
weights. I need to
explore.
go for a
Yeah.
run.
For sure.
I need
That's
to
it.
beat up a bag.
That's
Like,
it. Yo.
it's connection. It's adventure. You have a lot of needs. And yes, a lot of them are fulfilled in Jesus. But they're also fulfilled in community. And you can't get those needs fulfilled when you refuse to be vulnerable and acknowledge
Yeah.
That's
things
it.
in your heart.
That's right. That's beautiful. Celeste, I'm so happy you said that because
Yeah.
you just put words to like the actions that I've been doing.
Mm.
You know, like I feel the same way where like I think shame and self-hatred is a cop out. It's the easy way out rather than finding a solution to the problem with God. Right?
Yeah.
So like it's easier to be like, oh, I feel that way towards that woman. I hate myself. And that stops the ability to produce fruit. That stops the ability to go for the root. That stops the ability to be like, what do I really need right now? You know? And so I was going through that too. And I was like, okay, God, like social media keeps getting me. I was like, it just keeps getting me. I was like, I tried changing the algorithm on this thing. I tried doing this.
I'm clicking puppies.
You know, I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm clicking puppies. You know, I got a puppy. And, you know, I'm like, I'm doing the right thing, Instagram. Why are you doing this to me? And same with Facebook, you know? And like all these things where like I'm trying to control and I started reading John 12, and it says, unless you are like a grain of wheat that falls into the earth and dies, you remain alone. I was like, but if you die, you produce a harvest. And I was like, I've been trying to control everything by myself. And watching porn or finding another means to make me feel whole is actually me wanting to control. So really, I have a control issue.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's a big word right there.
Control.
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 I think even hearing everyone,
Yeah.
even like, it comes down to it like, I'm going to control the situation.
I'ma
I'm going to control my purity.
Alone.
I got this, and that's where we miss it. Even what you were talking about, what Jesus was saying, like, if your eye is single, you know, and, you know, if you even, you know, have the thought about it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, dude, it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. And, like, for me to experience grace is you can't have grace and be in control.
Wow.
Is that safe to say?
You can't. Yes, because grace is a gift
I
from
missed
God.
it. What'd you say?
Like,
Sorry, I
can
was
you
looking down.
can you receive grace and be in control?
Well, okay, take
I
the
don't-
roof off.
I think
Grace
Go ahead,
is
go ahead.
external empowerment, I believe.
Yeah,
So it doesn't come from your effort.
exactly. So it's just, yeah, I know for me, it's like I had to give up, like, okay, God, I'm going to let you be kind to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, where before, like,
Yeah.
you know, you and I talked about this. Well, we punished ourselves. And so it's like that was our control.
That's right.
Maybe we need to stop being in control because we tend to do that.
Mm.
But yeah, keep going though. All right, we're going to flip the tape.
Battery change.
Celeste?
I was reading in Philippians this morning and reminded of Paul, who, by every definition of what a Christian is, perfect Christian, circumcised on the 8th day,
Right,
like
right.
elite of the elite. He is the most
PhD.
qualified.
Yeah.
He's the most qualified. But he talks about putting no confidence in the flesh, which I think is beautiful. Obviously, he's talking about circumcision, which is like the culmination of the
Self-effort.
law. Yeah,
Yeah.
self-effort. But we want to talk about, I count everything as loss for the surpassing worth of knowing Christ Jesus, my Lord.
Yeah.
And we kind of put it in this context of like, nothing else matters. Your cars don't matter. Like,
Yeah.
we want to say material things don't matter.
responsibility.
But it's
Right.
like, no, your efforts to be perfect
Yeah,
don't
come
matter
on.
because it's about knowing Jesus. And then fast forward a little bit. He says, not that I have already obtained this or am already perfect, which I
Right.
think is beautiful. Paul's not perfect, even though by every definition that the church places on
Yeah,
perfection,
he's the rock star.
He's the rock
He's
star.
the rock star of Christians.
And he says, I haven't obtained perfection, but I press on to make it my own
Gosh.
because Christ Jesus has made me his own.
Ooh.
Knowing Jesus and the surpassing worth of knowing him
Yeah.
trumps all your effort. And when you realize that, obviously, you can't be perfect through your own effort, it really takes, and it's offensive to the perfectionist in me that's like,
Yeah.
I want to get ahead and like prove
Yeah.
to everybody that I'm blameless and I'm
Yeah.
good.
I got this.
Come on.
I got this.
Bringing that I word back in.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
like, do you know Jesus and are you letting him know you in those areas?
Ooh, that's it.
Like that you're being perfected because that is even what Paul puts on the pedestal. Like, it's knowing Jesus. It's not about meeting every letter of the law,
That's it.
which I think as a church we kind of trip over
Yeah.
because we say, oh, when you're doing drugs and you're showing up drunk and we know you're in porn and I don't know what to do with you. So, like, go get right with God
And then come
Yeah.
back.
and then come back
Wow.
and we'll have a conversation.
Yeah.
When you're full of remorse and shame,
Gosh.
so I can use this club and beat you even more with the
Yeah.
Bible.
Yeah, that's
I'm
right.
going to use the Bible to beat you
Yeah.
over the head
Yeah, that's
and
right.
tell you to be pure.
Yeah.
So I think we get it a little twisted, and it's about, like, I had a student come to me one time when I was at school in California, and he was broken over, he got drunk at a party, he's underage, and I said, how's your heart? Like, that must have been really painful. You must have been, and he just broke down weeping. He's like, no one has asked me that.
Wow.
I've talked to 3 or 4 people. No one has asked me how I'm doing.
Yeah.
right.
And it's like,
It's like
all of
Nate.
this,
They
yeah,
just ask about the action, I'm sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you done doing
Are you
it?
done?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
Instead of,
remorseful?
how's
Have you
your
repented?
heart?
Yeah,
What's your
how's
Wow,
your
plan?
heart?
Celeste, you
Yeah.
just,
What
you
was
just
that
nailed it.
need that you
That's
were
right.
trying to meet? What is
That's
going
right.
on? What is the pain that's deeper that you're not addressing?
That's right.
That you're grabbing a counterfeit for?
That's it.
That's good.
Beautiful, Celeste. I love that.
Man, it's just interesting how everything's kind of coming together. So Rafa just taught, and the name of your teaching was The Power of an Open Heart.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
so interesting how is it safe to say, it seems like we go to, like Nate said, more of the action than the heart.
It's true.
Well,
You
it's a
know?
hard place. It's a really hard place, not just to meet God, but initially to meet yourself at.
Yeah.
Once you go to that place of, I mean, even bump purity and messing up or missing the mark, even the place where I'm admitting to myself that I need something, it's hard. At least as a
Yeah.
man to be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm exhausted. Like, I need someone to just like nurture and comfort me. There's a switch in my head of like, when I have nothing left, push even harder.
That's
and so
right.
to be honest with myself to the point where I'm like, I actually need so and so to go fishing or whatever is hard in and of itself. But then even when you mess up, on top of that, not only am I missing something, I'm lacking, but then I did something wrong, so I have shame. It's a double whammy of like, I don't want to be in my heart. It's easier for me just to go and overcompensate for my
Yeah.
mistake
It's
and
it.
like, well, I'll just be super whatever. I'll
I'll
never do this again. Yeah,
Yeah. Last time, I
I'll throw
promise.
all my alcohol away, or I'll smash my
Yeah.
computer, or
That's it.
whatever.
Did that,
Yeah.
yep.
You think
Same.
that
Been there, done that.
you think if you clean the outside of the jar, it's good, but it's actually the inside. And I
Inside.
think
Yep.
Yeah.
I was actually shocked at how much it's tied together with what you're talking about, reproduction, and what Paul's talking about with circumcision. We kind of shy away from the talk of like circumcision because it has to do with like male genitalia. But the thing is, what a particular place that God would pick to set people apart. The thing on the body that is the source of our reproduction. And then once we go into the New Covenant, New Testament, he's saying, it's no longer about circumcision of the flesh, it's a circumcision of the heart.
Yeah.
And so he's still worried, and Jesus comes on the scene and he says, hey, it's not what you do in the flesh, it's actually in the heart. And so he's looking at what is the source of all this stuff. It's what you're allowing in your heart, is you're reproducing from. If you're allowing this stuff in your heart, you're going to reproduce from there. So set your heart apart for me to have. And it's so hard to do that sometimes when we're not even willing to acknowledge what's going on in our heart.
That's
Yeah.
so good. I love that.
That's good.
You know what I'm saying?
But I feel like
Yeah.
in the church too, we use words heart and flesh. So like, can we just take the roof off heart and flesh from the purity aspect? But like, we're saying God touches our heart. Like he touches my organ, or like when he says flesh, like
That's
he
good.
touches my bicep, like my legs. You
Right.
know, like I like
That's
my
good.
legs. Like they
the
help me run.
senses kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's
know?
good.
Yeah.
So what does it mean for God to touch your heart or your flesh? Take the roof off that. Somebody, anybody.
Celeste?
I think the only thing that's coming to mind is the law revealed our need for a savior, right? And the way it did that is because nobody can keep it.
That's right.
Like you can't do it in the flesh by your own effort, your own striving, your best foot forward, everything like perfect. You start on a brand new day. You can't do it. You can't measure up on your own. So it's like this external versus internal
It's good.
transformation. So externally, you can't transform yourself by the law, by keeping anything. So God's like, I'm going to fulfill the law for you by coming, dying on the cross, taking care of the law. So now it's written on your heart. It's a relationship between you and your creator. It's like for me to be like, oh, I'm going to not commit adultery against my husband.
Yeah.
But I have no relationship with Taylor. Like, let's hypothetically, we're married, but I have no relationship with him. It's like, I'm not going to commit adultery, but I have no relationship with this man who I'm married to. And I actually have a relationship with these things over here that are giving me what I need. So I might do it out of my own flesh, my own effort. I might stumble into that. But when I have relationship, when I have connection, it's out of the abundance of connection that there's no desire in me
Yeah.
to pursue these counterfeits that previously would have brought me comfort or would have made me feel like I'm meeting the mark. I no longer lust after those things because of the abundance of connection here. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Or did I
Yeah,
miss
yeah,
it?
yeah.
yeah.
Good.
I
No,
think
that's
you,
beautiful.
I think the word that goes with it for the heart is motive.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest thing that changes is the motive behind the action.
Mm-hmm.
Where the flesh is like, I clean my room, but in my heart, I don't want to clean my room. I hate my mom. Where when
Oh,
he
yeah,
touches the
good.
heart, it's like, I love my mom and I love this. That's why I'm going to do it.
Ooh,
Yeah,
It's
that's
it's
good.
a heart. It's the motive behind it. Like
That's
we grew up
beautiful.
under Pastor Leslie, and she would always say that to all of
Oh
us.
yeah.
Didn't matter if you were taking out the trash.
Yeah.
Didn't matter if
heart,
you were leading
yeah.
a thing. It was what's the motive?
Yeah.
What's your heart truly saying while you're doing it?
So
Yeah.
good.
Because that to me that's it. So for me the purity thing, like for me the flesh thing was like Celeste was saying, it wasn't a heart thing yet. It was, look, I'm not having sex.
Mhm.
I'm not having sex.
Yeah.
But in my heart I'm still kind of lusting. I see things, I'm kind of like, where when I had the encounter of
Wow.
he is my holiness now, he is my purity, it's not on me anymore. Now it's like, oh, the motive changes. Now the
Beautiful.
motive is like, oh, he just loves me.
Yeah.
So good.
Like me messing will never stop him loving me.
That's so
Yeah.
good.
Where for me, like that's how you know it's changed. It's the motive.
Yeah.
You know
It
what I
also
mean? The heart
becomes
behind it.
it also becomes like an indicator light.
Yes.
Yes.
Instead
Yes.
of this is who I am, it's like, oh, something's
Like a check engine light.
something's off.
Someone's off.
That's
Yeah,
so
I need to
good.
go check in
Right.
with the mechanic.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the way that the church is like, no, if your check engine light is on,
You're a
you,
piece of
there's-
crap.
yeah, even though even though
You're a
you're like the
broken
most
car.
expensive car, like like a Range Rover, right? Like a
Yeah.
$90,000 car. If your check engine light comes on, oh,
You're totaled.
you're totaled. Yeah, you're not
Yeah.
worth anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like rather than like, no, it's a Range. We need to take it into the shop. We need to
Yeah.
take it into the specialist. We need to get it fixed. Not fixed, but like we need to get that check engine light taken care of because there's
Yeah.
obviously something wrong. You know. Go ahead.
No, I'm just thinking. I've encountered something different here, at least and I think other churches too. It's like I've found that people in the church actually their hearts are pure,
Mm.
for the most part. And I mean, there are some
We're
people. that-
people. Yeah, we're all
it-
people.
Yeah, we're all
but,
learning.
But you have to think they are reproducing based off how they were fathered
That's so
Yeah.
good.
and how they were treated.
Very
so
true.
so they see someone with the issue. They're like, don't worry, I know how to fix this issue.
Yeah.
Smash your computer,
Yeah.
beat yourself up, whatever. But their heart is like, I'm trying to help.
So good.
It's just they're only reproducing what
From
they've
what they
been given.
learned.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
what they've been
good.
and really what they've been intimate with.
Mm.
That's what they're
Oh,
reproducing.
what
So
they've been-
they allow shame in their
That's
heart. They can
beautiful.
only when they
Give out
confront
shame.
you, what are you going to be dumped on? You're going
Yeah.
to be dumped with shame. They allow
Beautiful.
whatever works or what is that effort? What did you?
Self effort.
That self. We're talking about the flesh versus the
Yeah.
mind. If that's what they've been given, that's what they've been intimate with. It's
Mm.
like, oh, I know what to do. I'll do that.
So good.
Yeah.
It's
No,
beautiful.
That's good. So I want to make it a little vulnerable now because it seems like would it safe to say the fruit of missing this purity thing that we're taking the roof off is shame.
Yeah.
When you miss it, and so I kind of wanted to ask a question where, get us a little more vulnerable. Can you share a moment where he brought you out of shame?
Ooh.
You know, I know for me, I'll start with mine. Like losing my virginity, that was huge, and that took a long time. A process of him loving me,
Mm.
and I know for me, believe it or not, it was your husband.
I believe it.
I called him. I was in Michigan at the time, and I told him everything that was going on, and he was like, let's go back to the word, and I've always loved this word righteousness, and he brought me back to it
Wow.
of like what righteousness is, and the fact that he is my righteousness, where I just realized, what was I doing? I made it all about me again. It's like I got bamboozled into like I'm this righteous guy because I'm not doing because of the actions.
Action.
And he brought me back to really the Gospels. And I remember I was in the process of just rereading Romans and spending time with him again. It was just like, you haven't stopped loving me, have you? And he's like, no.
Beautiful.
And I remember one time, when we had Pastor Kathy on, she was saying when she missed something, how she sat on the bed and God spoke to her. She said, this is why I don't like, when we fall. It's
the
not
way you feel.
it's not that of you doing it. It's how you're treating yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's what hurt. God was like, and that's what I felt for the first time. I was like, Abel, I hate how you're treating yourself. You're not kind to yourself right now. Like no one was asking those questions.
Yeah.
How's your heart?
Yeah.
It was like, you blew it, you know?
Yeah.
You
For
know?
sure, you deserved it.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, I'm missing this.
Mm.
And for him to like, that had to become more real. Of like, Abel, like, this is what I don't like.
Okay.
You're being so mean to yourself.
Mm.
You know, and to actually let him be kind. And it was, you know, I had people pray for me and got around people that really remind me of how he sees me. You know, it's like that had to be, the grace had to become greater than my mistake.
So good.
Like that's where the rubber met the road. It had to meet the road. Was my mistake greater than Jesus' sacrifice?
Mm.
You know, so I had to surrender and own his forgiveness, which to me was a process. I know some people
Yeah.
are like, yeah, I'm forgiven. For me, it was like, no, I'm still punishing myself. So obviously I'm not fully, I don't believe
Yeah,
it, right?
so good.
Right? If my action is I'm punishing myself, I obviously don't believe he's forgiven me.
Yeah.
So good.
So like that was like a long, long process, and you know, talking to people and getting around people that
yeah.
that loved me, that called the gold out and it reminded me, and you know, it's but yeah, that was a big one for me.
Good.
Really,
And that's how
yeah,
and that's how you got your prophetic words.
yeah,
Like the George Washington and all Atlas and all that. Like the reason we say it is because that's who you are.
yeah.
That's the gold, you know? And I think that's the beauty behind like when you don't let shame stop you and you get the wholeness. Like there's actually a promise behind it. You know, and it's like, well, this is who I am, and this is what I get to meditate on every single day, and then that's what I get to reproduce, and that's what I also get to give. And but I had a question, like, how did
Yeah.
you feel calling Taylor? Were you scared? Were you nervous? Were
No,
like reaching
no.
out for help? Like, how,
Yeah,
how did that
yeah.
feel?
That's a good question.
Man, I think I just knew.
Mm.
I just knew, and okay. Oh, I know. This is okay. So I was kind of going through of like, how did I get here, kind of thing.
Wow.
I was like, man, I used to be sold out to righteousness, and then here I am, like, playing in the mud, owning the mud, and like was so against my nature. And I remember, man, wow, I'm getting revelation here. I remember I was in California, and I didn't find a home church. I was trying to do Christianity alone. I remember Pastor Kathy called me one time. Shout out to Pastor Kathy. And I was there for like months. You know, I went back to college. You came to visit me.
Aw.
And Pastor Kathy was like, so how's your home church? I'm like, oh, I haven't found one yet. And like, she was like angry. She was like, how have you not found a church yet? And like, I was like, oh, you know, I'm looking around. You know, I'm looking around. But it made me realize I was doing this without people. I was doing it without this.
Mm.
And I was just like this isolated guy that kept trying to do this Christianity alone. And one fall after another fall after another fall, I had no one speak into me. And it was just like, I think I just hit rock bottom to where it was like, I just know Taylor, trusted Taylor. And all my best prophetic words came from Taylor.
Wow.
So I knew in my heart, I was like, I'm doing this alone. And I need to reach out. I reached out to him. I reached out to Pastor Dave. Reached out to Leslie. And yeah, I think it's, you know, when you hit rock bottom,
Yeah.
you know, it was just like, kind of like what Patrick shared. It's like, man, I need something. And he was the first one. I just knew. I knew it was a safe place.
Mm,
But yeah.
Awesome.
I always know when I need to share something when I don't want to.
Yeah.
Everything in me is like, oh, I really don't want to say this
Yeah.
out loud.
yeah.
It's like, for me, that's like, all right, open your mouth and say it.
Wow.
Now that you know that there's that, like, I want to keep this hidden. I want to keep this to myself. I can be vulnerable. I can connect without sharing this part. That's
Yeah.
when I know I need to open that door and let it
Yeah.
out because that's something that's hindering.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard saying,
Oh, yeah.
confessing, you know,
Yeah.
but even in the Bible, it's very talks about that, like confessing your sins to each other, you know, and I think we think of that of like, so you can, you know,
Yeah.
stop doing it. We go to that, but it's an open door for healing,
Yeah.
because
And
especially
you don't share with people you don't trust.
there you go.
No.
So good.
So I knew, and I think that's the beautiful thing. When you do open that door, it allowed people like you guys and family to, Kristen too, God bless her, even what I did to her, like she still poured, Abel, this is who you are.
Wow.
This is who you are.
It's beautiful.
She never beat up on me with my past, which is what the world loves to do. But Taylor, you guys, Pastor Dave, they kept, no, this is how God sees you.
Mm.
And like, I think it was like 2 years without that. I was trying to do Christianity alone, without a church, without a family, which means I wasn't getting vulnerable with anybody
Yeah,
except the
absolutely.
devil, apparently.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for
beautiful.
asking that. Really
Yeah.
hit my heart.
That was
man.
beautiful. Thanks for sharing
I
that.
got goosebumps right now.
Come on.
Yeah. So Taylor, thank you for everyone.
No.
Yeah. All you guys, Pastor Dave.
Therapist. Love you.
Yeah.
So what was your question? Like, what
Well, yeah.
was?
Well, I think we all have experiences. If you want to share, I don't want to push anyone, but of like how he brought you out of an episode of shame,
Yeah.
because I think that's a big tactic, obviously, of the enemy.
Mm.
If he can get you in that place of shame, and what was really the process or even the romance of getting free from it?
Romance. That's
You
so
Yeah.
know,
good.
I think we, I think every believer experiences that.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm.
I can be vulnerable. I mean, I'm in process currently. I mean, I talked to you guys a little bit before
Yeah.
we started recording. I super quick synopsis because not everybody knows my story. I grew up in a family that has addicts just kind of sprinkled throughout.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm gonna be the one that can do everything and not be an addict to anything.
Wow.
I'm not chained to anything. I love Jesus, whatever. And this is yeah. Anyways, it was probably last month. So it's still very fresh. I was realizing like, man, I get home from work and I just go right to the bottle. I
Wow.
grab a glass of
Wow.
whiskey and I just, I enjoy it. This is something I enjoy. I enjoy wine. I enjoy communion in this way. I enjoy the freedom kind of that comes. And I was like checking myself, going like, this is a problem. And I talked to my therapist about it multiple times, and he's like, how's it going for you? Like, I'm like, it's not going great, and I know that it's hindering me. It's a check engine light. And he goes, what's a good number for you? What do you think is a number you can handle? And I said, 0. Like,
Wow. Good job.
I can't handle one without grabbing another one.
So good.
And so like I got really vulnerable with him and I said 0. And that accountability that came with acknowledging
Yeah.
I'm not able to do this in my effort right now. Like it might not be forever, I don't know, but it was like right now I can't do this. And I realized in a conversation with him is I'm waiting for someone to say you piece of crap to change because that was my experience. And I would change for somebody else, but I'm not going to change for me.
Wow.
And it's like every time I would be like, oh, I drank a little too much, my husband would never respond in any way that was like, you piece of crap.
Yeah.
Even if he made a comment like, oh, you're having, anything. I never felt shame from him. And I was waiting for him to say, you piece of crap.
Wow.
Wow.
For me to change for him. Not to change for myself, not to
Yeah.
change for my relationship with God or my relationship with myself. I was waiting for something external to say, you are what you do and you need to change to be lovable.
Wow.
And so when I realized, like, oh, that's what I'm waiting for, and I'm striving, yeah.
So good.
Anyways, so like now I realize when I want to drink, for me, right now, that is a trigger for me. It's like when I
Gotcha.
want to drink, I go to my journal and I go, I'm writing because
beautiful.
I want to do this.
That's it.
And it's reaching for a
good.
counterfeit to connect with myself. Because when I would drink, it's like, oh, all of a sudden all these emotions are coming up and I'm connected with myself. And like these things are coming out and I'm being vulnerable. When really, if I would till the ground of vulnerability and invest in vulnerability
Yeah.
to begin with, I wouldn't need this counterfeit to unlock something in my heart that's like being hindered. So now it's like journaling and connection.
Beautiful.
And so, but
job.
it's like even realizing like I'm waiting for somebody to call me a piece of crap so I can change for them.
Wow. How would you
Dang.
explain
So good,
that?
Celeste.
You said something, my gosh, that I think, man, that really hit me. You said you invested in vulnerability. So how do you do that? I think so many of us that like said that it's a scary word.
Yeah.
Especially even for yourself. Like how did that begin? Like I love, I mean, I know you're vulnerable, and I
Yeah.
love that you share the good, the bad, the everything. I think sometimes the other thing too is with church we can just be so fluffy.
Yep.
I'm good. I'm good.
Yep.
I'm good. I'm good. Look, my job's getting done, right? My actions are getting
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
I feel fine.
People are getting saved. We're good, right?
Yeah.
But then I love how you asked that. How's your heart?
Yeah.
Like, so how do you, for someone that's watching this and so actions, how do you invest or begin investing in that vulnerability?
It's a process of learning. It's a skill. Like I don't
Gotcha.
think vulnerability is like a posture. I think it's a skill that you learn and you work out. Like I said,
Good.
if there's something that I'm like, I don't want to share this, but I know there's so much freedom behind
Yeah.
that door, I'll open that door.
Good, Celeste.
I had a picture, I was in second year in my school in California, and I was listening to this person talk about vulnerability, and all of a sudden I like had this picture, and I thought I was being vulnerable with people. I was like being, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. This is where I've been for the past couple of weeks. This is, whatever. But I had this picture of like a house. If my heart is a house, and somebody's saying, "How's your heart?" And I open my window, and it's like, I open my window. They can't come in,
Oh,
but I open the
they
window
can
and they
peek
can
through a little
see, and they're like, "Hey, I don't know if I like that chair there. I don't think that's serving you there." Shut the window. Thank you for your input, but
Get out of here.
Yeah.
I get to do this by myself.
That's
Vulnerability
a great
is
picture,
going,
Celeste.
come
Coming
in,
in. Come
come
on.
in, put your feet in my heart, Put your
Gosh.
feet in my
Oh
house,
gosh.
and let's rearrange together.
Ooh,
Let's
wow.
take inventory of
I'm
the
getting
things in my
uncomfortable right
heart that
now.
are not
Wow.
serving me and my relationship with God and my relationship with myself.
That's
Like,
it. It's beautiful.
what's hindering my love for myself and other people, and God, like, what am I withholding? So it's, if transparency is opening a window,
Yeah.
vulnerability is opening the door.
So good.
That's good.
Dang, yo, write that down. That's a quote right there.
That was,
That's
man, yeah.
beautiful. I love that, Celeste. That's amazing.
Thank
And
you
I
for
think that's
sharing
it,
that.
right? Like, I don't even think about a diamond. Like, a diamond has a certain amount of value, but you have to be vulnerable enough to bring it to the jeweler,
Mm.
who's an expert at this, who puts it under a magnifying glass and it says it's worth this much. And that's so hard to do, especially when it comes to Jesus, especially when you feel shame, especially
yeah.
when you're like, I've been protecting it this whole time, being able to be like, God, put it under the microscope and him say, you're perfect. I see Jesus.
Yeah.
I bankrupted heaven for you.
Mm.
Like, that just kills me, you know? Like, I know we're almost out of time. For me, the purity question that you asked about, like, when did that actually happen for me, was when I treated my wife so bad. Like, we just got in an argument, and I was taught that anger is the right way to handle situations. And I taught on it off the platform, but I grabbed her Christmas tree and I threw it off the balcony. And I didn't want to do it. That's the thing that was hard for me with purity, was like, I feel like Paul in Romans 6, like, the things that I don't want to do, the things that I don't practice, I practice and I go out and do. And the things that I do want to do, I can't help but not do. And he's like, but now there is no condemnation for those that belong to Christ Jesus. And the power behind belonging, being whole, being uncontaminated, is that he's the one that helps you practice the things that actually produce good fruit.
Yeah.
Like, not throwing Christmas trees and making your wife cry, you know? But for me, it was like, I had to be, the reason was because I wasn't vulnerable with myself.
Mm.
And if I'm not vulnerable with myself, I can't be vulnerable with other people. And I remember I left the house as soon as that happened, and I tried to play worship songs, you know, and like play the piano because that's the spiritual thing to do. And I couldn't feel anything. So I like closed the keys and I put my head down and I'm like, God, how can you still love me after I treated your bride this way? After I wasn't pure, after
Yeah.
I contaminated this relationship, after I did introduce anger into the thing. And I was like, what do you have to say? And that was me bringing my diamond to him. And he was like, you're perfect and I love you.
Wow.
And I just started crying. I'm like, how can you be that good? And then from there, he was able to redirect me to, you know, fix my chair and like redirect my heart and be like, this is why you grew up like this,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but then my heart was changed and I was actually able to reproduce after that. And I'm like, oh, I don't know how to communicate that I'm sad
Mm.
because sadness wasn't acceptable.
That's
know?
amazing. You kind of really just explained what you said, which I never put those two words together, which is vulnerability is a skill. Like he said, he had to, like, I tried playing piano, I tried this. You were learning how to
Yeah.
be vulnerable with God.
Mm.
And then for you, it was going, okay, how did I treated so
Yeah.
and so. So how was it? I've never put those two words together. I think that's my prayer this year, Nate. Teach me that, to be more skillful in vulnerability. But no, I never thought about that. I think
Yeah.
just being vulnerable is just, I'm just gonna open.
Yeah,
It's like it is a skill. I never even thought about that.
So good.
But I think even what you said it just matched with what you said. Like you had to learn.
Yeah.
You know.
Takes practice.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. We have to flip the tape. Nate, do you want to share anything?
Sure, heck yeah.
I don't want to force stories.
No. I think you guys were there.
Tell
Everyone
me
was
your
there.
stories.
Tell me. Let
Um,
us in your house. But that picture of a
Going in the
house,
Yeah.
saying, "Let me come in, walk in your house, put my man." Okay.
Scary.
I got scared.
yeah. Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of stuff that, like, I'm like, I could think of a bunch of stories where I felt shame that actually hindered my relationship with God or with people or whatever. But the one that I stuck out when you guys were talking was, you mentioned something about accountability.
Mm.
And even with vulnerability, like, I remember sitting in that office over there telling Leslie that, like, I'm going to have a baby. And then sitting in Pastor Gavin's office and telling him the same thing. And me and Megan weren't married or anything. So it was this.
That must have been hard. So people don't know, but like you just got you were just named like leader of the union at that time. Like there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, but even then, it's like those are all external things.
Yeah.
When I sat down in the office with Leslie, the hardest thing wasn't saying. I think that the fruit was, yes, I'm having a baby out of wedlock, right? That's a fruit. But the root was a lot of my life was behind a mask. There's so much you don't know. So when
Yeah.
I sat down with her, I'm not gonna say everything, but I'll say I didn't. The main point of the conversation wasn't we're pregnant. The conversation was, and here's when I cussed last, and here's when I looked at porn last, and here's when I did it.
Wow,
I said
wow.
I need you to know everything
Wow,
because
Nate.
the reason why I got here is because you don't know. I've said I'm great. I've smiled. I've preached. I've whatever. But the truth of the matter is I'm dying inside.
Yeah.
Oof.
And so I took my mask out before Pastor Gavin. And what actually happened was I was inviting him in my home, and so I was able to experience covering. And it was, so I wouldn't have to get into that, but there was a
So-
level of accountability that I would have missed out on if I just was transparent.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that accountability, and you guys know because you were there too. I mean, we sat down. I told you guys, and I invited you into because there was a transformation that had happened. I had a contrite heart. I was broken. I was humbled, but I think the big turning point was I was loved at my lowest point,
Come on
Yeah.
now.
and
Wow.
not just by God, but by you guys. So it was. I deserve to be fired in my head. I deserve to be fired. I deserve to be kicked out of the church. I deserve to be like just whatever. And what I was met with was not a lovey-dovey, cushy love, but I love you too much to leave you where you are loved.
Yeah.
on.
And even
Wow.
invited into the place of let me tell you how much this hurts me, love. And I can't. I'm like just for like privacy purposes, I can't get into it.
Yeah.
But I've had so many conversations that I was never the same after one conversation with a person to see the effect that had on their heart. Just to see their heart break knowing what I did. And again, it's not this thing of the fruit per se, but think about the example I'm setting for the next generation. Think about and it's not like I said, I can't get into the details, but I remember seeing the look in people's eyes when I talked to them, and I'm like, my heart was breaking because it was like, I don't know.
That's beautiful.
Does that make sense?
It does.
And so I was met, and then the thing is, we talked about it, you're passing on whatever you've been fathered. You're reproducing what you've been fathered. So what I was being passed was not shame, it was not guilt, but there is a high level of excellence and purity that was passed on to me in that moment. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
You think about the integrity that the staff walks with, and I was met with that integrity. And they were
Yeah.
full of it. They were full of it, and so I was being dumped this. I was upgraded in my purity. I was upgraded in my standard of how I see myself and my worth and my calling and my thing. And it was like, I have nothing to bring to the table. I don't have a ministry. I do. I was holding on to my ministry diploma. I was holding on to my years of experience across whatever, my mission trips, my da-da-da.
Oh.
I was holding on to my dimples. I was holding on
Flesh.
to my
The
teaching,
self-effort.
my love for the
Yeah.
word. I was holding on to all this stuff. And I was like, this is why I'm on staff. And then when all that was stripped away, all I had was my calling.
Come
And that all I
on.
had was the hand of God in my life. And all I had that was the anointing. And it was like, I have nothing to do with any of that. That was before I was ever born. And so they looked at God's hand in my life, and they said, they affirmed that. I was like, okay, I have nothing to give. Okay, cool.
It's beautiful.
good.
Isn't that crazy? So when I was
Yeah.
loved in
Yeah.
that place, and when I was dumped, that stuff on me, that purity and stuff, it was like, I'll never be the same. But then the next step that walked me into was with you guys, more than you guys, but you guys were here, so I'll talk about you guys, is a level of accountability where I told you with this new standard that I have for how worthy I am, and my
Yeah.
heart was broken in pieces. I remember I would text you guys of like,
Oh yeah.
you remember that?
Yeah, I remember the
I would be
text.
like, okay, I would say before I ever hung out with Megan
Oh, yeah,
I said,
remember?
I would say, Holy Spirit says I need to leave by 10 o'clock. And so
Yeah.
I'd text you guys, and I'd say, text me at 10 if I'm not out of there. And I would like, sometimes I'd be like running, you know, like,
I remember.
I'd be like, okay, gotta go, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, there was a level of accountability, and it's not because you were trying to stop the behavior, but there was a, because I value something,
Yeah.
I'm willing to put it in a safe place. ADT at the home, you know, whatever. It's like I don't leave my keys out. Like I hide my wife's purse and stuff.
Yeah.
I have my passport and stuff in a safe. But and only I know the code, or Megan and I know
Yeah,
the code.
yeah.
But it's like I put these things that I value in safe places.
Mm.
And so once I started to value it, I didn't let myself hang out past a certain time because I
Yeah.
valued what me and Megan had.
It's
I wanted to
beautiful.
protect it. But that came through being corrected and being disciplined by people's love, unconditional love, and meeting that. And then it came through that accountability with you guys of let me tell you how much I value this. Now let me help you value. It's the same thing of will you watch my car while I'm gone? I value this. I trust you with this. It's like will you watch my relationship with Megan because I
good.
value it so much. And so that
Yeah.
accountability was that changed everything for me. Because even moments where it's like, I don't want to go. I trust myself. I can do this. Trust me. You
Yeah.
guys would text me like, get the heck
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
there.
I remember that.
Yeah, what are you
You
doing?
remember
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But I needed it at the time. Now you guys don't text me.
Right,
you know?
right, right.
But I needed
You're
it at the
married, you're
time.
fine. Yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
No curfew.
But that's the thing is, but even then, that's what I'm saying.
Oh.
Is it okay if we go a little?
Yeah, no.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
You tell
yeah.
me no, I'll stop right now. Yeah. It wasn't her. It wasn't her. It was what you were talking about earlier. It was I had a huge mask on. And so there were things in my heart where you have to understand I had no capacity to love her to
Yeah.
the way that I needed to love her. She was, I would never say this out loud, but in my heart, I was so broken and hurting inside that I actually saw her as
Yeah.
an object to make me feel better.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It wasn't a thing of even my best intentions in the world. I mean, you can have somebody like I told the middle school just the other day, I was like, you see LeBron get injured and he tears an ACL and he sits on the bench. And as bad as he wants to play, he has to limit because you have to heal. If you're broken, you have to heal. You don't play. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm broken, but I was trying to play. And what was happening was I was
wow.
hurting my team. I was hurting more than myself. I was letting people down. And I was actually hurting myself as well. So I'm sitting here and she's like, are you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. But the truth of the matter is I'm actually hurting her. I'm hurting the ministry. I'm hurting everyone because I was never addressing the fact that I tore my ACL. And not tore my ACL, but I was
Yeah.
I was
Healing,
I was not
hurting.
enough in my own heart. I mean, I don't have to go my problems, but
Yeah,
the root was
yeah.
never addressed. So I'm sitting here putting the jersey on like, I'm good. But really, I was actually, I couldn't play defense the same way. I couldn't play, I couldn't value the relationship because when I saw her, it was like, I don't have the ability to love her that I could. It wasn't until I got that healing and encountered that unconditional love and like spend the time with God where I started learning. If you take a coupon, it's just a piece of paper. Once you take it to the store, they redeem it and it's worth money. I was just a piece of paper until I was redeemed. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So I saw myself as a piece of paper, whereas someone picked me up and found me and said, no, you're worth $1 million. I mean, if I pull money out of my wallet right now, it's just a piece of paper. But if you see it as that, you'll treat it like that. Oh, it's just money, I'll throw it away.
That's right,
But
yeah.
I've seen moms like religiously clip these little piece of paper and then go to the grocery store and get out there for like 3, you see what I'm saying? Like these
Yeah.
couponers, my mom used to do it all the time. And it's like, they value these people because they see it. And I started to treat it differently once I saw the fact that I was redeemed
That's
or
beautiful.
redeemable. You see what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So it wasn't that it was like, oh, bump Megan or bump me or I'm a piece of crap or whatever. It's a matter of like, I was doing it outside of God. The only person who has the authority to redeem me is him. I cannot do it on my own. I can't be like, this is worth I can't draw on a piece of paper, Home Depot, worth $100, Home Depot gift card, and be like, take this. Like, who gave you this, bro?
Yeah.
You can't make these.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when it comes to redemption, for me, I think that was a turning point where it was like, once I started to find his unconditional love and invite him in those places of my heart, like vulnerably, like, okay, I'm hurting here. I'm broken here. I'm not enough here. Then I started seeing my value was, oh my gosh, she's worth way more. I mean, I remember repenting so much. I'm like, this is your daughter. I'm so sorry. And like, you guys know, I mean, you guys have some of those
Yeah.
conversations. I would just weep, man. I would weep. Or I'm your son. And I'd be so sorry because I'd have to tell Levi, like, I wish I waited. I wish I waited because now she has to deal with this. And it's like, I don't sit here with shame now. It's just my heart breaks because I want to be able to pass that on to him of like, she's worth waiting. I just was broken,
Yeah.
It's not a matter of shame. I'm not ashamed of it now. I don't. He took that on the cross, but it's a matter of like, I wish I could have been like,
Yeah.
Here's this gift I can give you. But now I can tell from experience, sucker, this sucks.
Right,
man.
but that's the redeeming
Yeah.
part
It's
of it.
beautiful.
For
Like
sure.
redeeming has
Yeah.
value behind it as well, and you get
Yeah.
to give that away too.
And now you're influencing like the ones coming up.
Oh, I tell them all the time, man.
Like you
yeah.
know what I mean? Talking about you being vulnerable, even now the fact that you get to be vulnerable with them, like they're getting stuff that I don't think they would ever have gotten.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like I've always called this guy the walking King David. You know what I mean? Like, cause he had testimonies, but
Yeah.
he was vulnerable. You know,
He
you read the
was.
Psalms. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, yo.
Not at all.
God, where are you? You
Yeah,
Yeah.
know?
literally.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing. I mean,
Thank you.
even what
Yeah.
you were saying, man, I think I think the key here, and Celeste, you hit it, is are we asking this enough? Is how's your heart?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
come on now.
Because we go straight to let's look at their actions. Oh, you're
Yeah.
getting the job done. Where even you, like all of us, we have to ask that question.
Yeah.
You were talking about, I think, was it Valentin, Jason Valentin,
Yeah, Jason.
who's probably kicking butt, raising the dead, healing the sick, and even he has to go, how's my heart?
Hmm.
I think we don't do that enough,
Absolutely.
honestly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even I was thinking about wondering about am I even like skillful in my vulnerability? I'm like, not at
Yeah.
all. Not at all.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's something I need to practice.
I-
So my question for everyone at home too is like, how's your heart? Tell them, Celeste, ask them.
For
Look
sure.
right here and say, how's your heart?
How's your heart? Yeah.
How's your heart?
Yeah.
So that's what we're gonna say.
I have a question for you, Nate. How did God's and other people's response to your vulnerability shape your way forward?
Good question.
Gosh, that's a really good question. So, how did God's response to my vulnerability shape my way forward, and other people's? Well, I'll start with people first because I think they're a good practice.
Yeah.
Um, I would never anticipate. I had never, ever, ever, ever invited anyone to my lowest point. In I think 20 some years to that point. So for decades, no one has seen my lowest point. No one's known my worst mistake. No one nothing. So to bring them into that, I didn't know. I was terrified. But what I met was unconditional love, and you had to think the Bible wasn't joking when he says that perfect love casts out fear. So a lot of what I was dealing with at the time was I'm hurt, so I'm afraid of getting hurt or whatever. So a lot of how I was dealing with, whether with girls or with hiding and stuff, was just fear based. So once I met love, it cast out fear. You see what I'm saying? So like I was no longer afraid stepping forward with people. Well, if you saw me at my worst, yeah, I think you guys we've experienced it on smaller levels. Like, oh, well, you've already seen my dirty laundry, so come on, and I don't care. The people you don't clean up for before they come over,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, come on, it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those are the people like that. I no longer had those fears because of how they love me. And then with God, it was way. Again, I mean, perfect love casts out fear, so same there. But I would say with him, I remember vividly, I had to start retraining my brain.
That's
So
good.
I would encounter love, but I had to renew my mind to the fact that it wasn't like an overnight thing of like, I mean, I joked like at the time, I said, even Pastor Barry himself is not spending more time with God than me. I told people that I could look people confidently and I say, I spend more time than when I first came at 14, I was
the
like,
senior
he
pastor.
must be there. He must be there every day. I used to look as a little kid like, I want to be like him, And then it came a point where I was at my lowest point. I was like, I need him so bad that I remember every morning, every night when I come home at work, different things, and all I did was just study this man, who he is, and invite him to these places and have these tough conversations. But I will say it took so much more retraining of my brain. I don't know how to explain it outside of. I would say this advice. I would say if you don't get it, tell him, because I remember he would tell me these things of like, even just the armor of God. He said you have to put on the armor of God every day, and I'm like, that's so cheesy. What does that look like? And he said, let me explain. And he broke down each individual piece. So he'd say with my breastplate of righteousness, he'd show me, here are your straps. This is, I love you at your lowest point is one strap. And here is, I see you spotless in my eyes, and you tighten those things up. And he custom made this armor for me. It was like, all right, now here's your helmet. Here's how you lace your boots up. And it was like, what? And it was like, I had to ask these questions, become like ignorant and like to the point, instead of assuming, because I think that's what got me in the place in the first place was like, oh yeah, I got my armor on, I'm good to go. As opposed to, I need you so bad. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
So what I'm hearing is like he responded to you in kindness and compassion and stooping low, and he didn't say, "Standards up here, buddy."
Good luck.
Like,
Yeah.
what
Oh,
you doing
yeah.
about that?
I mean, he was
so
born. He was born in a gosh dang manger. He's not a good.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was born into a mess. He
Yeah.
was born into our mess.
It's so beautiful.
So he's not afraid of that. And I
Yeah.
think
So good.
I was learning to invite him into the mess, the same way I was learning to invite people in. And
Yeah.
it wasn't that he cleaned it because he was not okay with the mess. It was that he knew I deserved better
Mm.
in my heart.
Yeah.
I deserve to be loved that well, or
Yeah.
seen like that. So
It's
yeah,
beautiful.
it was tough.
I love that. I think it's beautiful.
It's good. I know even like one of my favorite scriptures of First John where it says, if you confess your sins, like he cleanses you.
Oh yeah.
And I think we've all have made a mess of trying to clean up our own messes
Yeah,
instead of
absolutely.
relying on,
Yeah.
his blood, who he
Come
is,
on.
his kindness, his
Yeah.
whatever it is that we're missing that he wants to actually wash us with.
It's true.
It's like he does the cleaning,
Yeah.
Yes. I've been in Psalms 100, and everybody, I think a lot of people know that, especially worshipers, they're like, enter his praise, enter his gates with thanksgiving. But right before that's a beautiful verse. It's, we didn't make ourselves, you made us. or you made us, we didn't make ourselves. And it hit me of like, I'm not an accident, you know? And I think a lot of like the purity issues, it's like, I have no purpose here. Like my
Yeah.
parents were in heat. They probably drank a little bit too much and then I came out. You know what I mean? Where it's like, no, they didn't even make me. God made me. It was his idea for me to be here. So if I couldn't even birth myself or make myself, then why do I think I can clean myself?
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm in these situations where I'm like, okay, I'm here for whatever reason, but God is in this situation with me. He's in the mess with me. So like, how do you want to help me? And I love how you said you go to journal.
Yeah.
Because God meets you in a place where you can understand anything and everything. For me, it was like, let's go on runs. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have time. And he was like, you
You
have
gonna make time.
excuses. You're
You're
going to make time.
You're
He's
gonna
like,
develop the skill.
we're going to develop the skill. Wake
Yeah.
up at 5.
Yeah.
You know? And so like, I think for me, I just want to share that. Like, I love what you guys have been sharing. Like, it wasn't like one talk with him and like, we were good.
Yeah.
You know, it was like this process
Yeah.
of like conversation after conversation after conversation and doing it with him. And for me, he was like, we're going to wake up at 5 and we're going to go on runs. And I'm like, no, like, what's the value? And he's like, that's how we get grounded. He was like, the reason that you go and watch porn or go and masturbate or go and do this is because you're not grounded. And I'm like, whoa, I didn't know. I thought I was a sinner. Like, I thought I was dirty. And he's like,
Yeah.
no, you're just not grounded. Like, this is how we get grounded. We go on runs because that's where you and I get to have conversations. Not even the birds are awake. The bugs weren't awake. People weren't awake. It's so quiet and you can't be controlled and you have nothing to control here.
Yeah.
And those are the places where he met me and loved me and reminded me of my calling, you know, and I know we got to close up soon, but like, I just want to take the roof off. Like, what's a calling? Like, what is that? Like,
Oh, the roof off calling?
yeah, like when somebody's like, what is your calling?
I guess to me,
Just
it's
real
like
quick.
it's like
How
for
much
me.
time? Yeah. How much time? do you have?
We'll wrap it up after this.
Okay,
Does
cool.
that feel good?
Yeah.
I like for me, I think it's purpose.
Purpose.
Like I always how I teach the kids is you're a masterpiece. And so like calling is like what kind of masterpiece did he make you? He doesn't make
that.
mistakes. So why did he create you? Like he doesn't make mistakes. You're breathing here to create something. So it's like whatever that is, and we all have it. So to me, even here now, like that's what the enemy's after. Like, because if you don't know you're a masterpiece, you're gonna stay in the mud.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna stay down there.
Yeah.
So
And,
good.
and when you attach your calling to something that you do, it's still
Yeah.
you're stepping into that trap of like, I
It's
am
me
what
again.
I am what I do,
Yeah.
Come
but
on.
like your calling, it boils down to I'm a child of God.
That's
Period.
I am God's daughter.
Come on.
That is a huge calling. No matter what you do, that's an extension of that.
Yeah.
But if you step into my calling is something, and if I don't do that, I'm not walking in my calling and there's shame. Like, I am first a child of God. That is my calling. That is my purpose. To love and be loved by the one who made me.
You are
Come on.
God's favorite beloved.
Yep.
And if that's not the foundation, like you said, you'll miss your calling.
Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
So I got a question for you. Do you think we took the roof off purity?
Dude,
I
blew
think
it off.
I want to thank everyone for being vulnerable. I know you guys all shared stuff. Thank you, King. Thank you, Celeste, for coming and
Yeah.
for really even teaching us that we have to. There's obviously, if you're watching this, we're all developing the skill of vulnerability, and I encourage you to go deep with that.
Yeah.
You know, are you doing that with God? And like, are you asking that question? How's my heart?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of how are my actions? You know,
Ooh.
go deeper.
So beautiful.
Any last words?
Oh, let him touch it.
Yeah.
Not. I think when you're talking about cleaning yourself and stuff, it's like I think about Levi and stuff. Invite him in the place, but also let him touch it. Sometimes we avoid those conversations with God, and it's like, let him touch how bad it felt. Let him touch the guilt. Let him
Yeah.
touch the shame.
Yeah.
Like I did this, and we avoid that because we don't want to be honest with ourselves. How much like it actually hurt to think about that. But like if you bring him in there, it'll never be the same. There's freedom where the Spirit of the Lord is. Invite the Spirit of the Lord there, and
Yeah.
there'll be freedom.
Beautiful.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes,
It's like
please.
it's a short story.
Yeah.
I was kind of processing like the topic of purity, all of that. And real fast story, my dog, love my dog. He went outside one time and I guess he ate something bad and he got really, really sick. And I've never taken an animal to the vet before. My family was not that great with pets. But like he was so sick, puking up everything, water, everything. And I was like, I gotta take him to the vet. So like, long story short, he gets better. Couple days later, I see him in the yard and he goes out by himself. I see him in the yard and we're like supervising him like super closely. And I see him like eating something. And I flew out that door and I yelled at that dog. I said, "Get your butt up here." He ran up the steps and he dropped out this dead frog that he was eating that obviously it was probably something that got him sick.
Yeah.
And it's like we think, so like the way our parents respond to us when they think we are stepping into something dangerous or dirty is like we see anger on their face. But really my heart was like, I do not want you to get sick ever again. You get up here, you spit that out. Like my concern for him came out like anger. He was scared. But we think we're going to bring our mess to God and we're going to meet anger. But it's his kindness that leads us to repentance. Repentance is changing the way we think. So like we think we're going to, I got this dead frog in my mouth and I'm going to spit it out. She's going to yell at me. And God's like, oh, there's so much better for you. Like, let me give you this piece of steak. This was meant for you. And it's like his kindness that leads us to changing the way we think. Changing the way you think will change the way you behave. So it's like,
Good job.
you're going to be met with kindness.
Yeah. And the more vulnerable
is.
you are,
Good job.
the more you're going to experience it.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's the key. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoyed the episode.
Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a like. Don't forget to share to whoever you feel will love this. We appreciate it. And then also comment down what roofs we should be taking off. And we love you. Thank you again
Hi,
for
Mom.
watching.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom.
Love you.